The fact is, I'm getting older, and I want to make sure that the tools that I'm using don't get in the way. So I've narrowed that down this year to 2 essential channel strip plugins that I've never talked about on this channel, but in today's video, I'm going to.
Yeah, so you've spent a lot of time working on SSL 9000Js. You spent more time working on SSL 9000Js than most people have had careers in audio. So I think it's super exciting that you got to take this plugin and try it out compared to an SSL 9000J that you were super familiar with. Can you give us a sense for how it compared? And I understand that you actually gave Plugin Alliance Brainworx some notes on what they could do to make it really, really kind of shine compared to the original. So what was that process like for you of demoing it and trying it out?
So I figured out a time where I could get hold of a real 9000, and then I put it through its test. Through every instrument, and I made sure that that channel was good. I compared it to 2 or 3 channels, made sure that there wasn't something faulty or they had an extra gain or something. I was really meticulous. And then I made sure that the levels were the same, everything, so that I had one is the desk and one came up as the, I was monitoring the software. Mm-hmm. And then I started going through its paces and just pushing it all the way on different instruments. And it was unbelievable. It was exactly like the 9000, except for I discovered the low mid frequency. It was off by a couple of dB. The design, it was like a little number was on there. You didn't know whether that frequency belonged to the dot below or the dot above. I mean, really, really minor stuff, because the top end, the higher mid frequencies, the compressor, everything worked exactly. I could go between the two. I could not hear a difference. And generally, when you're trying to compare a software to a hardware, you find yourself pushing a lot harder, or you got to do a little bit more. It's in the ballpark, but it's not nailed. Yeah. This was like, oh, I can't believe it. And I did my thing on the guitar and I did my thing on drums. When you just go way too far, because that's when you're going to know whether the software is actually working, is when it starts to just, it's right on the edge. Is it going to sound bad, or is it going to sound like the desk? Right. And with that little adjustment, I sent them the report. I sent them all my samples so they could see exactly what I was doing. I knew, and then I figured it that it was exactly just one band was just off by 2 dB, only on the gain, not on the attenuation. And they adjusted it, and then it was nailed. And I was just so happy. And just recently I wanted to mix a record and just put it all across, and Fernando, my assistant, goes, "It's still a beta. Don't wait till it comes out," because, And I go, "Yeah, I know. I should have learned my lesson by now on that one." But
we have a Focusrite studio console here, and I've been working with this desk for about 8 years now, and I love this console. It's a great console. I was really excited to hear about the plugin. I was super excited to be even considered to be asked to test the plugin. First experience I had with it was working with some stereo stems that I had that were a bit stagnant, and being able to strap this plugin across all of my stereo stems was just a joy, because it actually sounded like I was back in the studio where I recorded it. My first impression of the plugin when I pulled it up for the first time was how closely it felt to manipulating an actual Focusrite module. It's almost actual size when you use it. Personally, I enjoy being able to use something that's a little bit tangible feeling. Even if it's a piece of software, I want to feel like I'm moving it around and doing things to it. And I feel that this plugin, outside of the fact that it sounds really, really shockingly close to the hardware, it actually kind of feels like I'm using hardware in a way, or at least what would be close to using hardware in the software realm. So a lot went into making this feel and sound like the equipment that I've, gotten used to using.
This is a masterpiece. That's why when these plugins were made available for free by Brainworx, when that announcement came out, I peed my pants just a little bit. I couldn't believe that they were making these collections of plugins free for us. It is for a limited time. Again, let me give you a before and after.
Emancipate yourself from anti-slavery. None but ourselves can free our woman.
After.
Emancipate yourself from anti-slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds.
The Plug-in Alliance one, but it is a little bit muddy compared to the Acoustica. If I was to pick between the two, which one would you go for? I would probably go for the Plug-in Alliance just because of the CPU. In terms of sound quality, they are very close. If I had a little stamp that I could just stick on every video, I would just say, nope, in a mix, average listener, can't tell the difference. You probably wouldn't be able to tell the difference, especially in the vocal.
It's amazing, you know, how they've captured that characteristic of the SSL. It immediately sounds like it's going through my console. Now, I have a 4000, so it gets a little dirtier, and I probably could back this off just a little bit. You know, you can see I'm pushing it super hard, but that's, honestly, I don't think the SSL comes to life until you hit it quite hard. Doesn't mean you should be like having a red light on solidly, but there's just something about smashing an SSL that just sounds musical. I mean, that's the SSL, isn't it? That's silky smooth. I see all of the reviews when it comes to SSL. Silky smooth, high end. I mean, it is. It's really, really smooth.
It was designed originally by Rupert Neve, which I really didn't know. And when I first listened to this, I realized that this has like a nice big open sound, very reminiscent of like the Neve 88RS, which I own, which I really love that channel strip. And now it makes sense to me that Rupert Neve actually designed the original Focusrite consoles. And he made, I think, the first 4 before it was, the company was struggling financially, was bought out by Soundcraft, and Soundcraft took what Rupert Neve kind of dealt with and kind of brought it to the next level, and built the following 6. Again, go watch the video. The link's in the description box below. So this has a really big, kind of an open sound, very reminiscent of the Neve, as I said, but it still has its own different flavor, and it's a very unique console, doing a little bit of compression. It's about 8 dB of compression here to 3 to 1, or no, 2 to 1 ratio here, about 8 dB of compression. And then on the high side, 10K, I added about 8 dB. What's great about the high-end EQ on this, which reminds me a lot also of like the API EQ by Slate Digital, where the top end is very smooth sounding. You can really boost up the high frequencies, and it never sounds edgy or bitey. It sounds very musical, and that's what I really like about this. Not many EQs are like this, but this one is.
Okay, it's a great recording. We need a little air. We need some bottom end too. There's maybe a touch of boxiness we get out, but also one thing that's built into this, say the gain feature here and this THD, we can get some muscle, some girth, some grit out of it by increasing these items, one or the other or both. Let's take a listen to that, okay? I mean, that's already an improvement, right? All right, so let's keep going. Okay, let's add just a bit of that that famous SSL compressor knock on the attack of the drum. All right, fast release. Here we go. About 3 to 1 dB. Not trying to crush anything at all. We'll just get that light flickering about 3, and you will notice an obvious difference in the attack of the snare drum. Okay. All right, let's do a quick before and after. Pretty significant, okay? All right, so in summary here, I really want everybody to understand the magic in a channel strip. And you guys in the mega bundle owners, you have so many of the great ones right at your fingertips. Neves, Focusrite, SSLs, and the differences between them. And I choose a console based on the project, based on the song, because they all have different personalities. And we'll cover that in maybe some future episodes. But I really want you guys to fall in love with channel strips the way that I did early on, and figure out just, you know, for yourself how they can improve your workflow. Okay, guys?
Ultimately, that's what it all boils down to, is workflow. Now, don't get me wrong, I will be using other plugins, but to have 2 solid channel strips that sound nice, that can get me where I'm going, that can handle equalization, low and high pass filtering, compression, gate, expansion, and overall levels with the fader, maybe some distortion as well. That's what I need. Both of these are clean but musical sounding channel strips. And what I may end up doing is using this for mixing, or this one, or both as a possibility. But ultimately, I want to really consolidate and minimize my collection of plugins when I'm actually using them on the majority of projects. I may not uninstall the plugins necessarily, but I'm just going to use less and less for the upcoming year, because again, I just don't want to have too many options-itis, you know, and that's a problem, you know. I want to really just narrow things down, and these are the 2 plugins, channel strips, that I came to the conclusion with. Both are high quality. This is essentially a cleaner, more modern Rupert Neve sound. As much as I love the vintage Neves, this one I think was Rupert's, well, I don't want to say his swan show, because his Shelford channel before he died was probably his swan show. But, you know, this is where he started going towards in the 80s. And, you know, when you see Focusrite, think Neve. Modern, cleaner Neve. And then the SSL, I decided to go with the 9000J, because it, again, is just a modern representation of the SSL sound. And that's what I'm going for. It's worked for other audio engineers, and it will work for me. Also, if you remember, the 9000J is equal to the 9000K, sonically anyway. But yeah, I will obviously continue to use plugins like these, because I like them for what they are. And, you know, the only thing is, for right now, some of them take up a lot of RAM, a lot of CPU, but I will have these plugins as an option. And I will be using these plugins on certain tracks, but for the most part, I really want to focus on just those 2 channel strips, particularly the SSL, because I heard that the compressor on it is just excellent and can work on so many different things. But yeah, by the way, here's the Neutron noise gate. I've never shown you guys AIX DSP plugins. But I do have those, as well as obviously Acoustica audio plugins, which I'm not going to get rid of. But, you know, I will be getting rid of some of these on this list. Definitely not the Noise Ash Needs. Definitely not a Pultec style emulation, which I want. 2 of these are Pultecs. And I might keep a Trident around just for fun. Maybe I'll get rid of this one. Here's I think this is a MAG style EQ. But the compressors aren't going anywhere, that's for sure. The LA2A, the LA3A, the 1176, the gates stay level, or retro instruments stay level, whichever one you want to call it, DBX, and obviously probably my favorite of all time, the distressor. Maybe I'll just stick with using a distressor and the channel strips for compression and equalization. I don't know. And then just for a few tracks, I might use an API. You know, the pinks. But yeah, good times indeed. So I'll be showing these off in future videos, but I wanted you guys to know right now what I'm going to be using for the next year at least, maybe into the rest of the decade. Who knows? We'll see. But yeah, Brainworx, Plugin Alliance, good stuff. I won't be stopping the use of these plugins. Why does this always go away every time I go to use it? There we go. Okay, it's because I had it disabled. It wasn't loading properly. But yeah, these plugins aren't going away. I know, SonarWorks. I know. These plugins are not going anywhere, but you know, I'm just minimizing everything